Spain has been left outraged after 15 women and girls were raped by migrants who crossed the border into Ceuta. The latest attack, several men allegedly attempting to sexually assault a 10-year-old girl in the street, took place on Friday. The civil guard arrested one Moroccan man while the others managed to escape. Thousands of unaccompanied minors who came via Morocco have been left in Ceuta, with the government scrambling to bring them to mainland Spain. Authorities say there are around 1,100 of these minors. Local media believes there to be 4,800. Save the Children puts the figure closer to 7,000. Many remain homeless.
Well, there you go. This is GB News Originals. I'm Emily Carver. Please do give this video a like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. And do leave a comment. Let me know what you think.
Migrants who have been allowed to stay in Spain have turned Ceuta's beach into a makeshift migrant camp. While the civil guard has confirmed 15 cases of sexual assault connected with the migrant crisis, the government has been unclear on the details. It's believed that most, if not all, the victims were migrant women and girls. The Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has come under attack for failing to speak up for the victims. He has not once addressed the situation publicly, despite proclaiming to lead a feminist government. Ana Redondo, the Minister for Equality, has not visited Ceuta either. When asked about the situation of unaccompanied minors in Ceuta, she said they were not wandering the streets and were, quote, in safe spaces.
Thank you, Tatiana. Here's the big question that we're going to debate throughout today's show. Are we witnessing the end of the European Union? Spain has become the latest country in the EU to suspend border-free arrangements after a row with Italy intensifies. Now, of course, Italy introduced similar restrictions following an influx of around 78,000 illegal immigrants from Morocco into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta. And we are understanding that Spanish authorities are bracing themselves for potentially a second invasion on Saturday, as you can see on your screens now. Across the European Union, there are now 10 countries that have quietly imposed border control, bringing an end to freedom of movement, the beloved concept across the continent of Europe. So is this proof that the Schengen zone is absolutely collapsing before our eyes as concerns mount over jihadi terrorism, organised crime, asylum and gang warfare? GB News can also reveal today the seemingly unstoppable political rise of the right. As you can see on your screens now, the political right now leads the polls in Spain, in Portugal, in France, Germany, Austria and Italy, with Sweden, Finland, Poland, Belgium and the Netherlands also seeing a rise of right-wing political parties who are witnessing Europe falling apart before their eyes. The continent is changing. Is it facing extinction? Well, join me now is the Public Affairs Manager at European Movements UK, Joe Megan. Joe, welcome to the show. A pleasure to have your company. You can see the continent of Europe is acting like a bunch of nation states, protecting their own borders, closing the borders to make sure there are stricter controls coming in amidst mounting public backlash over uncontrolled immigration, asylum, terrorism. European Union standing by impotent, not doing anything. We are witnessing, are we not, the EU collapsing before our eyes?
How's it going? No, not in my opinion. This is the kind of, I mean, let's be honest, this is a serious row between two European governments, but disagreements between governments isn't the end of the European Union. Managing those disagreements between governments is the one reason the European Union exists. This is obviously a serious crisis, and this is a kind of crisis that has to be dealt with at an international level between countries, and that is what the European Union exists to allow.
But if you're getting a situation as we have in Spain, where we have a socialist Prime Minister, Pedro Sánchez, who granted an amnesty to 500,000 illegal immigrants, and that precipitated 1.2 million applying for that, and then it precipitated those grotesque scenes on our screens there, Joe. 78,000 illegal immigrants simply swimming around a flimsy banner. We understand Spanish authorities on high alert for a potential second wave on Saturday, and once they're in Spain, they can simply waltz across the Schengen zone. That's why the barriers are going up. Barbed wire in Poland, tunnels from Belarus into Lithuania. We are seeing an unstoppable tide of asylum come into the continent, and Ursula von der Leyen, Brussels, are completely and utterly impotent to stop it. What's the point of them?
Oh, I think we have to realise that this is something that will be facing the continent regardless of whether the European Union was there or not. And how will we best aim to solve crises like this? And that is through working internationally in organisations like the European Union. It's worth noting Ceuta is actually not in Schengen. It was a non-Schengen part of Spain.
No, but we've seen immigrants from there shipped onto the mainland. That's happening. We've seen that happening, and now they're setting them up in warehouses. The point is, this is a continent without borders. That was the dream of the Remainers. That was the dream of the Europhiles, and that's precipitated a collapse of the nation-state borders. And the individual nations themselves, 10 of them, are now saying we won't play by the open border Schengen rules. We're going to protect our own borders. And Brussels doesn't want that to happen, but they're being ignored.
Well, that's not necessarily true, is because these states are using their powers under Schengen. These temporary powers are contained within the Schengen arrangements. So the ability to introduce the temporary border controls is part of the rule book. It's not ripping it up. It was created precisely for crises like this. So they are operating within the means of the European Union, within the means of Schengen, in order to fight what is a temporary issue.
Well, that's not true, because what happened was the nation states involved themselves decided to go solo, to go rogue, to disobey the central command of Brussels and say it's not working for us. You know, we are not able to control our borders if we're relying on Brussels, and so the barbed wire's gone up, the sentry boxes have gone up. That's the point. If the European Union has failed nation states, then they tend to go it alone, and that's what precipitated Brexit. Other nations might follow.
Well, I know.
The unravelling of Westminster power behind closed doors in modern Britain. Welcome to Britain Underneath, where we pull back the velvet curtains of the British establishment to reveal the stark reality of how power is actually exercised in this country. Before we dive straight into the deep end of this political maze, please take a moment to subscribe to Britain Underneath and hit that notification bell. Your subscription directly supports our channel, allowing us to keep investigating the political elite with total independence and bringing you the unfiltered truth every single week. Now, let us dive straight into the intricate power struggles currently tearing through the heart of British politics. When you look at the grand facade of the Palace of Westminster, it is easy to assume that power resides where the cameras are pointing. We are accustomed to the staged drama at the dispatch box, the calculated soundbites on morning television, and the carefully rehearsed press conferences designed to reassure a public that is becoming increasingly weary of political theatricality. However, any seasoned observer of modern British governance knows that the real decisions, the ones that shape the economy, dictate foreign policy, and determine the daily lives of millions, are almost never made under the glare of public scrutiny. Instead, they are forged in the shadowy corridors of Whitehall, within secretive cabinet committee meetings, and through quiet agreements made between political strategists and civil service mandarins. To truly understand why the British state feels as though it is constantly drifting from one crisis to another, one must look at the mechanics of the executive machine itself. In recent times, the traditional cabinet system, designed to act as a collective body of ministers weighing heavy national decisions, has undergone a profound transformation. What was once a chamber for rigorous policy debate has largely evolved into a rubber stamping exercise for an increasingly centralised inner circle. Prime ministers and their select coteries of unelected advisers have progressively pulled the levers of control inward, creating a command structure that often sidelines experienced cabinet secretaries and elected department heads. This centralisation of authority inevitably breeds friction. When policy is dictated from the top with minimal consultation, the institutions tasked with implementing those policies begin to fray. Consider the ongoing tensions between political appointees and the permanent civil service. For decades, the British civil service was praised as a bedrock of neutral, administrative continuity. Today, it finds itself caught in an ideological tug-of-war, frequently blamed by politicians for sluggish implementation, while civil servants quietly complain of erratic leadership and policy directives built on fleeting headlines rather than rigorous planning. This friction is not merely an inside debate for policy enthusiasts. As traditional party loyalties continue to fragment across the United Kingdom, both major political institutions are grappling with internal identity struggles. Backbench rebellions, once reserved for historic policy disputes, have become routine features of parliamentary life. Party managers find themselves constantly managing internal ideological factions, where a small group of determined lawmakers can effectively hold government policy hostage. This dynamic leads to watered-down compromises that satisfy few and solve even less, leaving the voting public feeling increasingly disconnected from the democratic process altogether. Understanding the British political machine requires looking beyond party logos and superficial political rhetoric. It demands a serious, objective examination of the underlying systems, the structural flaws, and the quiet backroom maneuvers that genuinely dictate the direction of the nation. The machinery of state is complex, deliberate, and often working precisely as designed, even when the outcomes appear chaotic to those on the outside. Staying informed about these hidden dynamics is the only way to hold power to account effectively.